BIDMAS and fractions. So when working with fractions, as indeed with whole numbers, the laws of BIDMAS still apply. So we have to do brackets first of all, then we have to do indices next, then we can do division and multiplication together, and the addition and subtraction come last. So let's look at a few examples on this. So example A, we've got 4/5 multiplied by 3/8 multiplied by 1/9. So there's no real order of operations here. We can just multiply as normal, and we need to look and see where we can cancel. So we can see that there's a 4 and an 8. They both will divide through by 4, leaving 1 and 2. And the 3 and 9, they also cancel, and they'll divide by 3 to give 1 and 3. So what we've got on the top is 1 multiplied by 1 multiplied by 1, and on the bottom we've got 5 times 2 times 3. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, 5 times 2 is 10, 10 threes are 30. So the answer there is 1/30. Example B is one of those questions that might have been floating around the internet where there are a couple of different answers for this. But what we have here is we're dividing by 4/3. So there isn't a bracket around the 4/3 and the half. So we're just doing the dividing by 4/3, and then we're multiplying by a half. Similar to algebra, whenever we think about terms can be moved across and the order can be switched about. So you could write this as 2/3 multiplied by a half divided by 4/3. And because the sign is staying with the term, then that's okay. But if we leave it as it was, then what we need to do first of all is replace the divide with a multiply. So it's going to be 2/3 multiply, but whenever we're dividing by the fraction, we need to turn it upside down. So it's going to be 3/4, and then multiplied by a half. So we look to see where we can cancel, and we can see that there's a 2 on the top and a 2 on the bottom, so they'll both divide by 2 to leave 1 and 1. There's a 3 and a 3, and they'll divide by 3 to give 1 and 1. So what we're left with on the top is 1 times 1 times 1, and on the bottom 1 times 4 times 1, which leaves 1/4. Example C, here we clearly have a bracket, so we have to do 8 first. There's nothing we can do with that, we have to do the bracket first. So we're going to have 3/5, it's going to stay the same, multiplied by a fraction where we're adding things. Now to add fractions we need a common denominator. The common denominator here is 6. And the 1/2 is 3/6, so we've multiplied top and bottom by 3. And the 1/3 is 2/6, so we've multiplied top and bottom by 2. So that's 3/5 multiplied by 5/6. So the 3 and the 2, we add the numerators together to give 5. And then we look to see where we can cancel. We cancel the 5s out to leave 1 and 1. And the 3 and the 2, or the 3 and the 6 are divisible by 3, leaving 1 and 2. So we multiply across the top, 1 times 1, and on the bottom, 1 times 2, which leaves 1/2. Example D, again we've got a bracket, so we need to do that first of all. We're subtracting within the fraction, so we need to find the common denominator. And the common denominator between 4 and 2 is 4. So we don't need to do anything to the 3/4, it'll stay the same. To get from halves to quarters, we multiply by 2. So do the same at the top, and we get 2/4. And that's going to be divided by 5/2. To subtract fractions, we subtract the numerators. So we get 3 take away 2 is 1/4. And then we're dividing by 5/2. Now to divide by a fraction, the fraction we're dividing by turn upside down, so it's going to be 2/5, and multiply. So we've now got 1/4 multiplied by 2/5. To do that, we look to see where we can cancel. We can divide through, so we can divide both 4 and 2 by 2 to give 1 and 2. We then multiply across the tops. 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 5 is 10. So the answer there is 1/10. And example E, what we've got is 1/2 multiplied by 1/4 plus a 16th. So we've got to follow the order of operations. So we do the multiplication before the addition. So we've got 1/2 times 1/4 plus a 16th. There's nowhere we can cancel within this fraction, so we could put a bracket around it to make it more obvious, but there's nowhere we can cancel. So we multiply across the tops. So 1 multiplied by 1, and that's going to give us 1. And 2 multiplied by 4 is 8, so it's going to be 1/8. And we're adding that to 1/16. To add fractions, we need a common denominator. The common denominator is going to be 16. So the 16th can stay the same. But the 8th, to get from 8 to 16, we multiply by 2. So if we multiply the top by 2, we get 2. And 2/16 plus 1/16 is 3/16.